But Loki's trying to make a deal with Luffy to get free from these sea prism chains. But while they're talking, we hear that Shanks was recently on Elbath. So of course Luffy asks why he was here, but Loki says that's a secret that he just can't tell. Then it cuts over to some of the crew that are still walking on this giant bridge, and the whole thing starts shaking when a giant starts sprinting across. And after taking a closer look, they see this is the guy that was calling himself the Sun God and dressing them all up like dolls. And there are two more giants behind them, one of which is carrying the Sunny. They don't know what's going on or why they're carrying the ship, but they just start running away, not trying to get caught by a bunch of giants. Then it cuts over to Hajrudin, who is the captain of the new giant pirates. They remind us how Luffy met him back in Dressrosa when Doflamingo was having that tournament for Ace's fruit. He's in the woods and he just caught a giant moose, as they show us the hierarchy of the giant pirates crew. But at the same time, the rest of the crew that were on the giant ship are just now arriving at Elbath. But as they were approaching, Robin asked Brooke to cut her hair. She was nervous about because he's never done it before, but everybody just starts glazing because he did a great job. And she thanks him, saying it's perfect. She's so fine. She did this because her hair was like this when she first met Saul, the giant who saved her from dying in Ohara's Buster Call. After learning he's still alive in Elbath, she wants to make sure he can recognize her. Again, as they're pulling up, we see just how massive the island is. That's when someone starts yelling that Saul has fallen and he can't get up. As they get closer, we see a giant child yelling for the captains. Apparently his name is Colin and he's asking if they're coming for a drink. They say nah, they're just gonna continue past them and head up straight away. And that's when we see a giant rainbow leading to the upper parts of the island. The whole crew is just in awe because seeing a full rainbow in general is kinda rare. The bro says they're nothing out of the ordinary and that you can draw them with a sunstone painter, this block in his hand. So someone drew this giant rainbow. And they tell the Straw Hats to hold on tight because they're about to go vertical. And of course they're confused, like what the hell are you talking about? But they explain the village is at the top of this giant tree. They're gonna ride the rainbow all the way up there. Frankie's like, yo, you're missing the point. How are we riding a rainbow? Like, what are we sailing on right now? They just start laughing like, what do you mean? Rainbows are meant to be crossed. And that's exactly what the fuck they do, bro. I don't know what to say. So the crew is literally riding a rainbow to the top of Elbath where the village is, and they're all just completely in awe as we're really doing it. Like, what the fuck? Rainbow currents don't have any resistance, so even the lightest rowing will carry you all the way. I'm still on the fact that Bonnie's just along for the ride, like she's 10 years old about to be a part of finding the One Piece. But then Frankie asks the giants if they've seen Luffy. The captain says they're all just gonna catch up later. They just continue on to the top of the island. As it cuts over to Luffy finding the giants that were carrying our ship, then she just grabs him like, wait, you're Luffy, right? And she's thinking how cute he is, saying, I love you tiny humans, but don't take it the wrong way. I'm not like him. She's talking about Roto that was trapping them in cages. She's apologizing for him having to deal with that. Believe me, I wouldn't associate with that freak at all if I had a choice. So we're all sorry about him. My bro asked what he was doing down there in the land of the dead with Loki and all those monsters. The deal they made together is supposed to be a secret, and he can't let any of the giants know they met each other. He's like, you know, but you know Luffy's a bad liar. But they just brush it off, saying they're glad he's okay. It cuts over to Nami, Chopper, Usopp, and Sanji, as that Roto nigga is trying to recapture them, talking about Nami's gonna be mine for life. Sanji just hits him in the face with a simple trap. Of course, Usopp is saying they overdid it. So they get ready to continue on, but that's when Luffy pulls up with the other two and the ship. When Roto hears the giant shorty coming, he thinks she's coming to save him. They both just crack him in his shit for being a fucking weirdo. Yeah, bro, you gotta knock that shit off. So Sanji starts fiending for the giant baddie. Zoro saying it don't matter if I overdid it now. They introduce themselves as Hajrudin's subordinates, saying they're gonna guide them through the island. Of course, Luffy and Usopp get hype. Let's do it. All they gotta do is go straight and take a ride on some clouds and they'll be at the village. They get going as it shows the rest of the crews arriving at the top, as Dorian Bragi explained that Elbath has 3 levels going from top to bottom. The realms of heaven, sun, and death. And we live where it shines, the realm of sun. He says there's a bunch of villages. Even Robin's just glazing the massive landscape. We get a full welcome to Elbath panel, and Usopp starts crying. The giants officially welcome the crew to Elbath. The place is just as fantastical as you could imagine. And everybody's jaws dropping, and Usopp's crying because this was one of his goals. And as they're all arriving on the rainbow with the giants, Luffy and them are watching them pull up like, what the hell? Again, how are y'all riding a rainbow? They're all screaming Elbath is the greatest. As It says, from the mighty trees to the gentle flowers, from sea to sky to land, all life on this particular island is so huge it takes one's breath away. To those who seek adventure, I concede it would be a great shame to turn away from this marvelous land. However, if nothing else, I implore you to keep this one piece of advice in the back of your mind. Should you venture out and arrive on Elbath's vast and mysterious soil, heed my simple warning. If I could write one thing about this enticing nation, it would be this: do not linger there for too long, said by Louis Arnaud, an explorer. Knowing Oda, this is probably referencing some real life person. And now it cuts to some Marines who are talking about the Buster Call at Ohara 22 years ago. And all these grown ass men believe a 10-year-old Robin destroyed a whole fleet of warships and escaped on her own. Bro says she was a devil masquerading as an 8-year-old. From childhood, they said she has the eyes of a stone-cold killer and a scholarly intellect but lacks any trace of empathy. We see how niggas was literally hungry to hunt down a little girl, how the whole world was against her, so she was really going to take her own life by jumping off this cliff, but when thinking of her mother's words, she couldn't. And the words Saul spoke to her about finding true friends always lingered within her. It shows how she was constantly on the move, trying not to get caught and just running for her life. At 8 years old, she just toughed it out and laughed through it the way Saul taught her. As it cuts back to the present and both the giant pirates and the Straw Hats reunite, they all arrive at the villages on top of the island. So the vibes are immaculate, everyone's just celebrating, smiling, joking around and happy to see each other. Nami likes Robin's new haircut. The giants congratulate Luffy for reaching the status of an emperor. He wants them to be their subordinates, but again, Luffy never wants that. Regardless, everyone just follows him anyway. And they all heard how he beat Big Mom and Wano, and she's a giant who actually used to be friends with Gerb until she did something unforgivable. They say just save all the yapping for later so we can get ready for this feast. Of course, Luffy is all for that, but then Robin calls for him and that she's going off on her own to go meet Saul. Luffy's like, nah, forget about that. As captain, I gotta greet someone who took care of my crewmate properly. The whole gang is going with Robin to meet her childhood savior. And as they're going over there, someone's coming towards them saying, yo, Saul has fallen and he can't get up. Luffy mad like, what? We just came to see him. Ain't no way he collapsed when we got a 22-year reunion in the making. Chopper's ready to help him however he needs. After the giant lady points out where he's at, Robin just starts chuckling, saying how silly. It'll be fine, I'll just go to him on my own. You can all stay here. She's like, man, to think I got all worked up. As she slowly approaches him in silence before he tries to hit her with a jump scare. Just roaring in her face, but she doesn't flinch. He's chuckling like, damn, I didn't get you. Yeah, I guess not. She's just looking at him all cute as shit like. He apologizes like, sorry, I know you're not a kid. I just wasn't sure how to break the ice after all this time. But she recognizes he's still got the same funny laugh. Then he holds her up to get a good look at her, saying she's grown as beautiful as her mother. And she really does look smack like her, just with black hair. Says you've got kind eyes just like her. He asked if she heard Vegapunk's broadcast. Because she was on Egghead when everything was going crazy, she didn't catch much of it. He just read the coverage of it in the papers. He says Vegapunk's words were Ohara's legacy. Were supposed to have been buried in history, left to vanish without anyone hearing. And yet the voices of the scholars of Ohara were passed on. Vegapunk was a true scientist and he refused to preach about right and wrong. But in the end, he still risked his life to tell everyone. Ohara and Vegapunk took a huge leap of faith, so I'm sure their sacrifice will shape the future, and she agrees. But don't forget your sacrifice too, as she touches the scar on his face, asking if it hurts. But he's like, nah, come on, I'm harder to kill than that. But when I came to, I found myself drowning in the ocean. So Aokiji really didn't kill him. He only ended up taking his leg, as the ice he was frozen in must have melted from the heat of the Buster Call. And I soon found out that you survived too, but all the reports pissed me off, saying god awful things about you. And then they finally just embrace, I've missed you so much, Saul. I missed you too. Stop it, please. And the whole crew just starts crying. Hold up, where's Zoro at? Is Zoro getting sentimental? Wait a minute. Nah, of course he's still standing off, just cold as shit, and Luffy laughs, happy that they're reuniting. As Luffy goes to thoroughly thank him for saving Robin and introduce himself formally.